Okay, so a couple of friction knots. So I've got my ridge line set up, and you can watch the other playlist for loops that we use at camp. But we only use a couple of different friction knots. I don't want to go into too many of them. There's lots and lots. But I'm just going to show you a couple because you have to know these for camp. Okay. I'm just going to use this loop here in a minute. So let's say I want to put something, I want to bend a line or hitch a line to a ridge line. So I'm not tying two ends together like a bend. I'm going to take a closed piece of microcord, and these Prussik or friction hitches work much better if the line you're frictioning is smaller diameter. So I got 1/4-inch Paramax and little microcord. Now I've joined this in a loop, I don't know if you can see that, with what's called a fisherman's bend, or two double overhand barrel knots, and they slide together. So this makes a fisherman's bend. But I've got a closed loop. I like to prepare and have a couple Prussiks with me in my cord bag, just pre-tied, so I don't have to worry about it. Bank line works really good, micro cord, even twine. And then you can use these as well to make a soft shackle. That's another type. Actually, I'll cover that in this video as well. So I've got my soft shackle. Right. We're going to talk about the two Prussiks, ways to tie around here. So you have a little toggle. I've made this or a tent stake, and I'm using this bowline loop in this rope as like the tie down loop on a tarp or something I need to fasten to this line, but I want it adjustable. So I'm going to take my barrel knot and offset it a little bit to the side. I'm going to go over my standing line, my ridge line, and I'm going to feed the loop through itself. See that? And when I get down, before I dress that up, because that's not enough friction, I'm going to hold that, the top of that line, so we got like that letter D, that half circle. I'm going to hold that, keeping some tension on. I'm going to bring the whole fold around and tuck it up through the middle of itself again. Okay. Spread those out to the side. Go over the ridge line and repeat the whole thing one more time. 3 times is usually enough. Now the knot, as I dress it up, is going to twist a little bit, but I want to keep that dressed so those wraps snug up against each other, and that crossbar is going behind the rest of the closed loop. Once I tighten that down, I can back out a little bit, so you see. Now when I pull this direction, it won't go anywhere because of the friction, and I can pull this direction, it won't go anywhere. So it's hitched right to that line. It's hitched to that line. You could tie a knot around a tree too, but it works best on a rope. So it friction hitches and catches, it won't move. Now I've made a permanent fixture point on my line, but I can grab that barrel and slide that thing up and down the ridge line in any direction. As long as the tension's off it, I can slide it. Once it pulls, it stays where it's at, but I can slide the line with me. This is called the Prussik. Now from here in the Prussik, I can throw a lark's head on the other end of that loop, or clip a carabiner through it, or whatever. In this case, I've fashioned a toggle, and then I can take the loop on my tent or tarp or whatever and loop it over that toggle, or bend the lines directly together. But now I can slide this barrel of my Prussik and tension that up and slide that down further. Okay? If I want it looser, I just move that barrel closer and the whole thing loosens up, so I can slip the toggle through. So that's a Prussik knot. You can leave those on your ridge line. A lot of people like to keep those kind of pre-tied. Sometimes they don't hold as well if they get twisted. They're a little bit cumbersome to tie all those loops and wraps with cold hands. So here's another one that I like to use. Once again, I'll set my barrel knot kind of off to the side, or maybe even all the way down at one end, off to the side a little. And then this will only hold the friction real well in one direction. So I'm gonna need the tension going that way. So I'm gonna hold a loop, and I'm gonna wrap both strands of my closed loop around and around and around my ridge line. So I sort of spiral up over the ridge line at least 4 times. See that? At least 4 times. Now I'm going to, I go around another time, so I got a big loop here. Now I'm going to take my original bite that I was holding, where my barrel knot is, and I'm going to feed that up through that secondary bite, and then I'm going to pull toward the line I want, the direction I wanted the tension to go. This will kind of collapse around a little bit, and this is going to form another very similar to the Prussik called a Klemheist, and it's a friction knot. You see that it won't go this way. If I go this way, it just sort of folds and collapses on itself, and it will slide. But the Klemheist is more unidirectional. And same thing as the Prussik, I can grab the barrel, I can slide that with ease in the direction I want it to go, or I can take some tension off. So once I've attached this to I've clipped in my tarp or carabiner or whatever, I can slide this along my ridge line to tighten it up. I like the Klemheist because I don't have to wrap through and keep as I'm dressing the knot, keep the coils, throws side by side. And then when it's time to come undone, I just tuck that barrel back up through there, and the whole thing just sort of unwraps. Okay, so that's your Klemheist. Right? Your Prussik is going through itself, through the loop, and you see as I go through there, when I come around, see how it's kind of a mess, and then I have to dress the lines up the right way. So Prussiks, in my opinion, are better tied and just left in place. So I just sort of prepare. It's a pain in the ass. I just sort of prepare my Prussiks on my ridge line once, and then I just leave them in place so that they're ready to just slide up and down. And I would just leave that in place so I can clip on. In the winter, I find myself making my Klemheist. I just wrap my line around, I snake it up the rope, spiraling up the ridge line, away from the direction of pull. Right? Then once I've come all the way around, I've got a little bit of that tail left. I tuck my original end through, pull back toward itself, and now I've got another great friction knot that I can slide and move just like the Prussik knot. But this Klemheist hitch, this works really good on for climbing lines too, because I could put my foot in this, put my weight down, then slide it up. But we're not going to talk about that right now. Okay, there's the other friction hitch like that. So Prussiks and Klemheist, you have to know those two little friction bends or friction hitches on another line, not a tree, so you can use those in your shelter construction. All right, check out the rest of the playlist.